Hey everyone, it's Kate, half of LoveStory, and today I wanted to talk about books and depression. So one of my big passions is bibliotherapy, which is books for therapy. And I know a lot of people are going through depression right now with everything going on in the world. And so I wanted to talk about a couple books that might help you with your depression. So first off, is I Capture the Castle by Dodie Smith. This is such an amazing book. The book is essentially the journal of Cassandra Mortman, who is a 17-year-old, and her family lives in a rundown castle. I believe this book takes place in the 30s in England, Sussex, and we follow her very dysfunctional, crazy family and Cassandra essentially coming of age and trying to figure out life, her family, and love for the first time. And it's really lighthearted and slightly pessimistic at the same time, like a typical 17-year-old is. And it's one of those books that gives you a little bit of depression, but also different ways to combat your depression. By the way, I'm using these headphones because it's a lot louder than just sitting here talking, and so I think the audio is a bit better. So that was the first book I recommend, I Capture the Castle by Dodie Smith, and I'll put all my recommendations down in the description, along with recommendations I found from the Novel Cure, which got me in love with bibliotherapy. So you'll find all of that in the descriptions. The next book is The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison, and I'm still getting used to this camera, so bear with me. Toni Morrison is a goddess of writing. All of her books have moved me to tears, smiles, and laughter, and given me such hope in life that I recommend her for absolutely everything. In The Bluest Eye, we follow Piccola Breedlove, who's an 11-year-old black girl who, get this, prays for her eyes to be blue so that she can be, quote, as beautiful and beloved as the blonde-haired, blue-eyed American kids. It's told from the perspective of a slightly younger girl who watches Piccola essentially grow up in the novel, and this girl our narrator is trying to figure out life and what is happening around her, while also going through different changes of her own. And I actually listened to the audiobook version of The Bluest Eye, and this book was listening to Toni Morrison read her own book was life-changing. Her voice is therapy in itself, but to listen to Toni Morrison read her own words was just phenomenal. I highly recommend the audiobook, but if you can't do the audiobook, definitely read The Bluest Eye. Paperback, it was Oprah's book club book. Toni Morrison is a goddess of words. All of her books are phenomenal. If you can't find The Bluest Eye, pick up anyone. Beloved is one of my all-time favorite books in the entire world. So find that. Also, pick it up. You'll need tissues, definitely, but it'll make you cry, but it'll also give you hope. At least it did for me, just like all of Toni Morrison's books. So, The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison. Get it. The next book is an absolute classic, and you will definitely need tissues for this book. This is one of those books that you read if you need a good cry, because it will have you crying throughout the whole thing. And that is The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath. Like I said, a classic. Everyone should read this book at least once in their life, if not multiple times in their life. So in The Bell Jar, which is a semi-autobiographical book, Sylvia Plath is a world-renowned poet, but she also wrote The Bell Jar, which was her only novel, and it was an instant bestseller, an instant hit, a classic that everyone should read at once, like I said. So this book follows Esther Greenwood, as she falls into insanity. And we follow her through her journey of insanity and madness and going into institutes and being told that she's insane. And it is so real and so haunting. You're going to walk away from this book a completely different person. You can't read The Bell Jar and stay the same person that you were before you read it. It will, like I said, it'll make you cry a lot. You will need tissues for this book. But it also opens your eyes to your own depression. Like, you read this book and you think, maybe things aren't quite as bad as I originally thought they were. And so it makes you extremely depressed because this story is so well told, and we empathize with Esther so much that we just want her to be better. But it also makes you take stock of your own life and your own depression, and maybe helps you get over it a little bit, if not completely. The next book is a totally different book. Also thought to be a classic. It wasn't one of my favorite books that I've read, but I think it's a good book in this context because it's different than the other books I've talked about so far. And that is Last Exit to Brooklyn by Hubert Selby Jr. And this book follows dope addicts, hoodlums, prostitutes, workers, and thieves in the back alleys of Brooklyn. And it is one of those books that no matter how bad you think your life is, you read this book and you realize it can be so much worse. All of the characters are so beat down and down on their luck and downtrodden. All of those down words, that the emotions that the characters feel, you can't help but feel while reading this. And it's one of those books that if you're like the characters, you realize you're not alone in this fight. There's other people going through similar things as you. And for a lot of people, that helps them get through their own problems, just knowing that they're not alone and they're not going through this alone. And if you're not like the characters, like I said, you'll realize that just like with the bell jar, maybe things aren't as bad as I really thought they were. Maybe I can get through this depression. Maybe this won't be my only depression, but maybe I can get through this one. And finally, the last book that I have to recommend to help with depression is the last book I finished, and it's become one of my favorite books this year. And that is A Man Called Ove by Fredrik Backman. So good. I read this book and I was surprised by how much I loved this book. I went into this book thinking, okay, it'll be a decent read, a good read, maybe a 3, which is my, average rating for a book that I generally like but don't think is great, but it's not bad. But in A Man Called Ove, we follow Ove, who is suffering from depression because his wife recently passed, I think 6 months ago, from cancer, and he's went through so much with his wife, who is his best friend, and he's got no one else in his life left. And so Ove, throughout the book, I don't think this is giving spoilers, but I'm sorry if it is, because I'm horrible at talking about books without any kind of spoilers. So Ove tries to kill himself over and over and over again throughout this book, and he keeps getting interrupted. And just seeing his utter frustration in this book it weirdly brought a smile to my face every time you knew he was going to try to kill himself, because you knew he was going to be interrupted. And all of these interruptions lead to unexpected friends and family in Ove's life, and it leads to such a bittersweet ending that will make you both smile and laugh. And I just loved it so much. And I just learned that they're making a movie version of A Man Called Ove, which is going to star Tom Hanks and is going to be so good. So good. I'm so excited. But we got to wait 2 years, 3 years, who knows how long for it. But so I recommend this book because I think that people going through depression will be able to relate with Ove. It will know when Ove says, "Can't a man just die in peace?" exactly what he means. Especially if you're going through grief-driven depression, which a lot of people do. When you lose someone that you love, it hits you hard. You're only human to go through grief depression. But reading Ove's struggle and his story gives you hope in a way. I can't talk about it a lot because it'll give away the ending, but Ove develops these friendships in this family that he never thought he was going to. And A Man Called Ove by Fredrik Backman is one of the most heartwarming books I have read this year, and I have read in a long time. And I can't wait for the movie, and I want to read this book again, even though I just finished it yesterday. It made me cry. I needed tissues for it, but it also made me smile, and it gave me hope in life. And that's what books should be. They should be there for therapy. They should be there to make you cry when you need to cry and make you smile when you need to, or when you don't need to smile. Unexpected smiles are sometimes the best smiles. And so those are my 5 recommendations for books to help you battle depression, depending on what kind of depression it is and what kind of therapy you need. I'll be putting more videos up about bibliotherapy and more book reviews up later. But check out I Capture the Castle, which was also a movie with Henry Cavill back in like 2003, I think. I haven't watched it yet, but I can't wait to watch it. The Bluest Eye, any Toni Morrison book, really. Like I said, she's a master goddess of words. Amazing. Sylvia Plath, The Bell Jar, everyone knows that book. If you haven't read it yet, read it. Last Exit to Brooklyn, if you need one of those books to tell you, hey, you're not alone. People have it worse than you. And A Man Called Ove. I love Ove, my favorite. Anyways, this is Kate with LoveStory, and let me know in the comments what you think. What are your favorite books to help you with depression? What are your favorite books you've read this far? What books you want me to talk about? What I should read? Don't forget, like, comment, subscribe, become a Patreon, and help support us. And we'll see y'all next time.